Hi, I'm Ahava Leibtag. Welcome back to What Did You Learn? I am thrilled to have one of the giants in the healthcare communications field here with me today. Please welcome Rose Glenn. Rose is the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for Michigan Medicine, which is the University of Michigan's health system and School of Medicine. Rose, welcome so much.
It is so nice to be here, Ahava. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course, I'm excited to interview you and hear your great thoughts about the pandemic. But before we start, tell me, what has been your favorite comfort food at this time?
Oh, well, I'm really lucky because I have a son who does a lot of cooking, and he happens to be at home right now, and he has been doing a lot of yummy desserts. So I have had just a wonderful array of really rich desserts with hazelnut and chocolate and all kinds of goodies.
How long will it take me to drive to Michigan?
We'll send you some, Ahava.
Sounds delicious. What I would love to do is take you back to the beginning of this. When did you realize that this was not a drill and that this really was going to change, life as we know it, but also the way you approached your marketing and communication strategy?
So I realized this a tad late because I went to Puerto Rico on March the 10th. Not a good day to go there. And I believe it was the middle of that week where we received our first patient and activated our command center. So I was spending time on the phone every day as we activated the center. Actually, came home 2 days early because so much was happening so quickly.
How did you mentally make a list in your head of, these are the things I need to do, these are the things I can control, these are the things I can't control, what do I want this to look like at the end? Where did you start?
Well, fortunately, we had a disaster plan, so we could implement that as part of the command center. But this was not a normal disaster. A disaster lasts for a finite period of time, and you're all working to put out the fire. This, you had to be in the long haul. So you had to really think a little differently. I have a great team, and right away, we noticed that people, both internally and externally, were so hungry for any information we could provide. We just said this internal desire for valuable content was the number one priority. Then on top of that was all the externals. So we were changing visiting hours. We were closing down centers and changing where you could get services.
How you had a baby
Yes.
baby changed.
Oh my God, yes. Everything was changing. And so we just really sat down and said, we have to become much more agile than we normally are. And that was a key to the success. No longer could you spend weeks on a strategy and then implement it. We were able to produce content on the fly. Communications people who normally didn't do video they were doing segments with their iPhones that news stations were using online and in their newscasts. So we knew that if we could step up to the plate and respond to the need, people would keep coming back to us, and we were thrilled with that.
So, I love this idea, like the energy that brought everybody together was amazing. But as a leader, a lot of times people must have come to you to ask you what to do. And I'm sure the first thought you had was, I don't know. I've never been here before.
None of us had, yes.
What did you fall back on?
I think that's a great question because you can leverage the leadership skills you've learned along the way. So I mentioned one, not being afraid to change the way you do things, to be agile, to say, what, we're going to give this a try, and we will fail fast if it doesn't work, and we'll still do quick PDCA, but we will get action plans in place really quickly.
I love the idea of saying to people, we're going to try and we might fail, because there's a vulnerability there, right? There's like a real true, I don't know what's going to happen, but we have to do something. So let's try and then we'll evaluate. Did you find that you were able to be vulnerable up the chain of command as much as you were able to be vulnerable down the chain of command?
I think so. And the leaders, the executive team, my boss, who's the CEO and dean, he's never gone through this before either.
He's also like, I don't know.
So he was open to recommendations, and I think really appreciated us being creative. When we started our hashtag Held to the Front Line campaign, he was game for anything, whether it was a TV ad to salute our internal staff, or it was signs people could put in their yards. We knew we were losing a lot of money a day, and he was still really open to things that we could do to raise people's morale and recognize them. And that was one of my lessons learned. I would have started that a little earlier in the process. We were so fast and furious with getting the facts out and responding to all of the change that it took us a little time to say, hey, we need to provide inspiration, appreciation, recognition every day.
Yeah. We're getting ready for cold and flu. We're getting ready. Numbers are rising all across the country. So you have learned now. What are you doing this time around to prepare for this next wave?
It feels better this time because we just finalized a communication plan for this next cycle. And what we did was we looked at what we did the first time, lessons learned, and actually the plan has lessons learned under each component, and new ideas that we learned from peers and colleagues or picked up on our own. So you feel like you have a little more breath this time.
Yeah. So so we're talking a little bit about this like agility and this transparency. What to you are sort of the long tail silver linings for the healthcare community? What are you thinking about for your staff over the next, 12 to 18 months and then beyond? Where do you think we're going to start putting our energy? Peer into your crystal ball a little.
I'll do it from a couple of perspectives. From our staff working remotely, that has changed the way we do things. And I don't think we're going to go back to a place where staff have to report every day to an office and everybody is back to a so-called normal. We have higher levels of satisfaction of people using their commute time to be able to get work done and then have more quality of life, more time with the family. So I think it's going to look different. I don't think we will always be full-time remote, but I think we will look at more hybrid, and I think that's really positive.
It's so interesting to me because I feel like, for so long, everyone has felt frustrated by how slowly things move. And then you find out, you can turn it around really fast. On the other hand, people have made mistakes. So how do you balance that? Like, we need to try. Are you going to continue to embrace that? Let's fail fast. Are you going to fail medium fast? How are you going to find that balance?
That's a great point. I think that no matter how fast you move, you've got to incorporate that plan, do, check, act. You've got to go back to who you're trying to engage and say, hey, how I'm doing. If you don't do that, and you're moving so quickly that you skip steps, it's not going to be effective. I think you really have to still be deliberate, even though you're working more quickly. And I think the whole story of how the medical community responded to telemedicine and virtual care is such a good example. It wasn't just Michigan Medicine. There were many, many organizations that just hadn't moved the needle on percentage of physicians who were actively engaging in virtual care. And then it had to be done. And I couldn't believe how quickly we stood up our program, and we had physicians who hadn't done it previously saying, I really like this. Just as importantly, We had patients who really liked it. So I think that's changing the face of medicine. I think those kinds of examples of pushing your faculty and your staff into a direction they're not quite comfortable in, learning how to do that when it's not a crisis, that's a great secret and something to strive for.
Well, I think we're all going to use for like the next 10 years, as we learned in the pandemic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I just want to bring up one other thing because, you know, I'd be remiss, you're in Michigan and Black Lives Matter happens. How did you lean back into that or forward?
I have such great partners with our diversity, equity, and inclusion team. They really came to the table and said, we are going to be proactive and not reactive. So we did a lot. We worked with our medical school students who had their own agenda in mind on what they wanted done. And we formed an anti-racism steering committee that already has a very comprehensive plan in place. Even though we were in a pandemic, this was a big societal shift and we had to respond. And I'm really proud of the work of not only Michigan Medicine, but so many in our industry who stepped up both internally and externally and did the right thing.
So Rose, it's a year from now and I'm sitting in your lovely kitchen eating a dessert that your son made me. And you know, you turn to me and you say, you know what, Ahava, this is the number one thing I learned that I'm going to keep in my toolbox forever from 2020. What is that?
Number one, taking chances, taking risks, being agile, and then also not forgetting that inspiring and restoring and part of who we are and what we do is about making people better. And that's not only on our patients and our family members, but it's on our staff as well. And I think that the communication that we do that helps our team rise up and really connects the dots with our mission, that's what really resonates. And those were all great lessons learned.
Fantastic. Rose, where's the best place for people to find you?
The best place for people to find me? Well, in my kitchen, on this laptop.
I meant like LinkedIn?
I know exactly what you meant. Yes, LinkedIn is a great place to reach out to me, and I'm happy to engage with folks. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here on What Did You Learn? We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks so much. Thanks, Rose.
Thanks.